Welcome to the Mamaverse, the ultimate self-care experience for every mama. So in the Mamaverse, you can make genuine connections with other women while taking part in self-care and wellness activities. You do this by joining a team, picking your self-care and wellness activity you want to complete, earn points upon completion, and then unlock rewards. My name's Tu Hien. I bring on expert guests in physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness. So we cover the full range of self-care and wellness. I'm happy to take inputs and suggestions of what type of or what specific category in wellness you are interested in hearing. So today our topic is about personal finance and how that is part of self-care, bringing on Holly Penney, who is in the building and gonna on. Holly is a mom and she's a finance enthusiast, and we are excited to hear what she has to say. Hi!
Hi.
Hi, Holly. Thank you for
How are
joining.
you?
Good. How are you?
So awesome. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yes. So I was just saying that you are a finance enthusiast, and today our topic is about how personal finance is part of self-care too. So Holly, I would love to invite you to do an intro of yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me to this opportunity to share with all of your followers. So thank you.
Of
Um,
course.
so my name's Holly, and first and foremost, I'm a mom. So I'm a mom of four, two bio boys and two bonus girls. I'm a self-love lover, I like to say. I'm a travel addict. I'm a minimalist. I'm a finance enthusiast. I'm the founder of a nationwide professional bookkeeping firm. And because I always like to hear these fun facts too, I am a lover of chocolate. So give me
Oh,
chocolate
please.
and I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
As
Any
I'm
kind of
sure,
chocolate.
yeah, as I'm sure many moms watching will probably agree too. So, Holly, I want to know, have you always been interested in finance and personal finance, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I would say from a young age, I think I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was starting, little
Mm.
businesses and as a young child. And then I remember my journey, I guess one moment in my journey is my parents, they went bankrupt when I was a teenager. So I remember the person showing up at our house to repossess our family car. And that moment in my life it was scary, it was confusing. I really didn't understand what was going on. And I knew that I didn't want that to be my path in life. Now, I would love to say that was the moment and everything changed from there and I was great with money my whole entire life. No, that's not the case. That was like one moment. And then in my, I'd say mid 20s, I realized that I was about $80,000 in consumer debt. So I was on the same path.
Is that
And
included with student loans?
there were student loans, there were car payments, there were credit cards, there were, you name it, we had it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And then something switched for me, and I knew that I really didn't want to go down that journey for the rest of my life. So I started reading about finance, following money mentors like Gail Voss-Oxlade and Dave Ramsey. I know Dave Ramsey is really big in the community. And one of his sayings is actually sell so many things that your kids think you're next, your kids think they're next. And so that's exactly what I started doing is like going through my home and seeing like what can I get rid of that I don't need, that we're not using, that's not useful, and what can I sell? I think it was pre Facebook Marketplace. I don't think Facebook Marketplace was a thing then, but on Facebook groups and Kijiji, I just started selling everything. And around the same time is when I learned about minimalism too. So it really went hand in hand in that, the state of your home is a direct reflection of the state of your mind. And so a cluttered and busy and just, yeah, full house is what's in your mind. And I didn't want to have a cluttered and busy mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that really was the pivotal moment in my journey of learning about minimalism, really learning about finance and how to combine the two to create something that was sustainable for me and something that, the journey that I knew I wanted to be on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you find it interesting that we don't learn about this in school?
Yeah. If there's one thing that I could change about the school curriculum, it would be personal finance. We don't learn about this in school, and I think that's where a lot of our maybe stress comes from because we
Oh,
learn about,
yeah. Of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm We learn about money from, say, our parents. Most of us lived with our parents or a parent during our childhood. Our belief systems are created between the ages of 6 and 12. So thinking about how our parents talked about money as a child is kind of the belief system that we learn. And then there's no moment in our journeys where we learn something different. And if we could learn this in school, when we're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
we could create our own journey. But
Right.
instead we're creating the journey of our parents.
Yeah, I actually think that the concept could be introduced even younger, right? Don't spend what you
Mm-hmm.
don't have, only
Mm-hmm.
spend on things you need. But then that
Mm-hmm.
might go against the whole capitalistic consumerism idea, I guess. But
Right?
that's
Yeah.
a whole nother topic. But
Show.
well, it's just interesting because I majored in finance and I didn't even learn
Mm,
about personal finance in that was never talked about, right? Which is
right?
odd, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, how did you, um, like, when did you starting your business come into play?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to, like you said, maybe we could even learn this earlier. And one thing that we do in our home with our kids, so 4 kids, they age between the ages of 6 and 14, um, we give them their weekly allowance and then they must save 10% for a long-term goal.
Mm.
Right
Oh,
off
that's
the
a
t-
good
even
one.
Yeah, even our 6-year-old, he saves 10%, he saves his 60 cents every single week and he puts it in his jar and then we deposit it into the bank account. And he sees his bank account growing for, I don't know what his big goal is right now. He's 6, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's a
yeah.
good habit,
Yeah,
healthy habits. So, yeah,
absolutely. We can teach them young.
yeah. So
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
were you always did you always study finance and then that's how you rolled into your business?
Yeah, yeah. So I always worked so during my career, as I say, young 20s, mid 20s, I had a career at a job that I went to, like a corporate office that I went to every day. And so I always worked in bookkeeping, personal
Mm-hmm.
finance, that kind of thing. Um, and then I think it was about 4 years ago, probably, I started to get this little nudge, this little okay, it's time. It's time you take the step and help support people on your own because you
Mm-hmm.
can support them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, finance was always pretty present in my mind. And then I just used it to support business owners. We have business owners that they're moms that, they started a side hustle and now they want to make it their full-time gig, but they don't really know anything about finance.
Mm-hmm.
Really supporting them in learning how to take control of their finances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, in working with your clients and then, in your experience and in personal finance, why do you think it's such a big stressor
yeah. Mm-hmm.
in the
Why?
family, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think I want to touch back on like the belief systems. So
Mm.
if we
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, if I go back to think about when I was between the age of 6 and 12, how did my parents talk about money? They probably said things like, rich people are snobby, or you have to work hard for your money. Or I know one belief that I picked up along the journey somewhere was you can have nice things or you can have money, but you can't have both. And so, really working on those belief systems and learning that inner child's work and learning, is this my belief or is this a belief of a parent or, an influencer when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of my favorite affirmations is, I deserve all the nice things I desire without compromise. Um, you'll you'll often see we write money affirmations around the office and leave them on sticky notes. Things like, I love money, or I earn more money so I can give more money. I am a millionaire. Like, we create these affirmations in our life so that we reprogram all of those negative belief systems that we've had as a child. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where it begins, is when we're children, and then it's not talked about ever again. So we don't learn anything different, and then we become in relationship and have our own families, and it's just stressful. Money and sex, you don't talk about them, right?
Yeah. And
That's what society says.
I like how you touch upon like the whole money mindset. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, a lot of people's original beliefs come from their parents, but if our parents grew up and they didn't learn about money
Exactly.
mindset, and different generations have different belief systems, right? Different society.
Absolutely.
So
Mm-hmm.
then you have to adapt. And
Mm-hmm.
now we are not in a, maybe back then it might have been, things might have been more scarce and it's not now. So, but then we bring that scarcity mindset. So then we want to
Absolutely.
hold on to the money because we're afraid it's going to leave us, which I could
Absolutely.
see has a ripple effect in like family life. Because then you onward project that to your family and your
Mm-hmm.
children. So then they're
Mm-hmm.
going to believe same. Man, it's
Mm-hmm.
a cycle.
Oh, it is a cycle.
It could be a vicious cycle there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what has happened in previous generations, right? And now it's like, okay, let's stop this vicious cycle.
Hmm. So, would you agree that from that mindset point of view, that understanding how to take care of your personal finance, that is the connection with self-care? Like it's your mindset around it.
Absolutely. 100%. And I know firsthand what it's like to have the weight of debt and stress about finances on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in that moment, it's really hard to think about, like, just lifting that weight off, even even for just 5 minutes. How much energy you spend on the weight of the financial stress. Where could you be spending that energy? Where else could you be spending that energy?
Mm-hmm.
You
You
know,
could be spending it on figuring out ways to create, right?
exactly,
Or attract, or,
exactly.
adding value
Mm-hmm.
versus being stressed. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
really is
Yeah,
a vicious cycle, right?
it really is.
So, in your experience, as far as like, and from like a family point of view, what do you think has been like the most challenging for moms and families when it comes to finance?
Mm-hmm. The most challenging part, I think, from my experience, what I see is just starting the journey. Um,
Mm,
I find, and I hear this story over and over again, is they recognize, so they see this mountain, they recognize that they have to start. They don't know where to start. They get overwhelmed and then stick their head in the sand, say the proverbial stick your head in the sand. Um, and I know that's probably the fight, flight, freeze response of the brain, which is your brain's way of keeping you safe. But we need to stretch that a little bit, and we need to
mm-hmm,
grow a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be scary. Not everything is going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty all the time, but really just starting. That's where people get stuck, and then they just
mm.
don't know where to start.
I get that. It can be
Yeah.
intimidating and overwhelming, especially if
Mhm.
if you're not like a numbers person or you're used to looking
Mhm.
at things analytically
Mhm.
like that. So then you kind of like depend on somebody else to figure it out.
Right.
But maybe that person doesn't really know it either. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so maybe it's just about, so like, how does one make it less intimidating or overwhelming? Like,
Mm.
what is the first step?
For me, what I recommend everyone doing, like that first step, is creating a zero-based budget. So,
Mm,
in the very beginning, when I was learning about finance, what I did is I learned about zero-based budgeting. And so what it is you take your income, say your income's this amount, then you take all of your expenses, and your expenses can't equal more than your income. So your expenses have to equal exactly the same amount as your income. Um, One thing that's non-negotiable, like I mentioned about the kids, is also the same for me, is I save 10% off the top without question. It goes
Mm-hmm.
into a saving, goes into a tax-free savings account. And then I list everything else out. So rent, mortgage, utilities, heat, phone, car, insurance, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've now set up what's called sinking funds. So every single month I put money aside for, say, gifts. And then every time there's a birthday or something that we need a gift for, I just go to that bank account, pull out the money. Christmas comes along. Christmas is a big event in our home. So I save every single month so that at Christmas time, I have the money there ready to go.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I even have a bank account for self-love. So every month I put money in there. And then when I want to do something for myself, I just pull the money from that bank account.
How much are you allocating towards a self-love fund? Is it a percentage as well, or?
The self-love fund, I put approximately $100 a month in there. Some months is a little less, some months is a little more. Now, well, I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I took the whole family for pedicures. So we all went out for pedicures, and it was,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, it was enjoyable. And it was like, that was my form of self-love that day, right? Self-care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Wow.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So just starting. It's sometimes the inertia can be difficult to overcome.
mm-hmm.
I was wondering, when you're working with clients, do you touch on the mindset portion of finance?
Mm-hmm. I am mindful to touch on it as often as I can.
That's
Um,
good. That's a different
yeah.
approach from bookkeeping companies that I've experienced. I've
Hmm.
actually never heard them mention mindset, but
Yeah.
it's so huge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. We talk about it all. I had a client just yesterday reached a huge goal for himself. So I'm like, okay, now is time to celebrate. We're not just gonna bulldoze over this. Take the time. What are you gonna do for yourself? How are you gonna celebrate? Um, Celebration is so important, I think. And I'm still learning, I think that too is, celebrating the little things. It doesn't always
Mm-hmm.
have to be like I bought a house, yay, or it can just be
Mm-hmm.
the little things. Hey, I saved $100 this month. That's amazing. Taking the time to celebrate that, and reprogramming your brain that those are good things and those are happy thoughts, and
Yeah.
let's learn those habits.
Yeah, I also have a note to myself weekly to do
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection and
Mm-hmm.
like wins, because that's something I don't do. I just like achieve something and then go. Like I don't ever
Uh-huh.
really look back. So it's like a good, and my coach told me it's like a good habit that I should take time just to reflect and be
Yeah.
grateful and celebrate, like
Yeah.
you said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
absolutely. That's one thing I'm learning too.
yeah, it like shifts your mindset,
Hmm.
and I think it also helps on the gratitude side too.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite things to journal about is 3 ways money supported me today.
Mm,
And it can be, as big as taking the whole family out for pedicures, or it can be, I'm so grateful for money today that, my house is warm in the middle of winter. Like
mm-hmm.
those types of things. It can be anything, just recognizing how money does support you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. Money is
Hmm.
so interesting. It's so powerful. I know people say like money is energy,
Hmm.
and like when you start to like understand the mindset behind things, you were
Hmm.
like, yeah, it is. It actually
Yeah,
is. But
it's
it takes
it's
a
just
bit of work to like be able to unlock that concept in your brain, and like
totally.
yeah, it takes work.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the inner work, self-care work that you have to do to kind of like understand that, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Totally. And is it ever finished? I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know.
yeah.
I don't know if like wellness and like inner work, all that's ever like, I'm done.
Yeah, no. Is it? Because
Right.
as soon as you've accomplished one thing, you're like, oh, now there's this other trigger that's coming up, or this other,
There's layers.
pain point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
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 Interesting. Same thing with finance. I guess that's,
Same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could give families, moms and families a tip to help like enhance their personal finance, what would that be?
Mm. One tip, I say just start.
Mm,
You know, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. I'm 10 years into budgeting and I still mess up my budget some months where I overspend in one category and I have to take it from another category.
mm-hmm.
Um, we do monthly date nights or monthly money dates in our house. So on the last Wednesday of every single month, we sit down, I go over my budget, my partner goes over his, and we go over our family budget for the following month. Um, it hasn't always been easy. We have two different money mindset, financial stressors, however you want to put it, coming together. And, there were disagreements in the beginning, but I promise it gets easier. Creating that budget, it gets easier every single month. Even if it's not perfect in the beginning, just keep going. It does get easier.
So you kind of touched on this. So what happens when you and your partner have different mindsets around money,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
probably more common than
I think
not?
so. Yeah,
Like,
I think you're right.
what have you experienced or found to be helpful in those situations?
Yeah, coming to a win-win is important.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, if it's going to be a win-lose or a lose-win, it's a no deal for me. I really
Mm,
strive, especially when it comes to money, for the win-win. Um, yeah, and it hasn't always been easy. I'm trying to think back to like some of even just initiating a money date was a stressor. It was like, no, I don't want to talk about this, but I do want
mm,
to talk about this. Um, so what we did in the beginning and still do is creating a comfortable atmosphere. We sit on the couch, we grab blankets, maybe grab a tea or a coffee, and really just creating a comfortable atmosphere. And then when one person is checked out, it's like, okay, we're going to reevaluate this later because we know we can't think clearly from that stressed moment, that fight, flight, or freeze moment when our brain
mm-hmm.
is shut down. Um, so, like, tips on how to approach it is really just being communicative with your partner and you saying, you know what, this is important for me. Even if you can give me 5 minutes of your day, let's start with 5 minutes, and then those 5 minutes will turn into 10 minutes, and then maybe in 6 months you can have a full conversation about money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love well, one, I just love this conversation because I've never come across anybody that does finance as their
Mm.
profession, also
Ah,
weave in the mindset part. I've only experienced like either you're like a super finance person or you're like a super
yeah.
mindset person, but it's like
Uh-huh.
interesting that you're able to blend both skills and concepts. They're so important and
Yeah.
so like needed and related. So it's like super interesting that you take that approach.
Mm.
So I mean, I'm really appreciative of that because I learned, like I said, I was always in finance. My career was in finance. So like I
Yeah.
learned the skill to finance. I didn't
Yep.
have the mindset. I didn't
The
even
mindset.
know mindset was a thing with money
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
recently. So then it's like now I'm like connecting the dots.
Yeah. Yeah. And learning how they do connect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring them together.
Yes. And also, I find it really cute that your last name is Penny.
I know, right?
Is it so like perfect?
Right?
Yeah.
So
Um,
I've never seen the James Bond movies. I don't have a clue what they're about, but people will often call me Money Penny, Miss Money Penny.
oh,
So I think it's a James Bond reference, but Money Penny. I get that
oh, it's
often.
so like I don't know, just like the universe right there,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um, well, Holly, is there like anything, like any last tip or anything that you want to share with the audience who's watching live and on the recording that any offer that you want to share to them?
I brought this down I brought this down to my office, and this is it's called our family jar. And so what we did with this one day, I put a ton of magazines all over the kitchen table, and the kids picked out photos of, activities and things that they wanted to do as a family. So every month we contribute some money. There's money in here, and you can hear there's a whole bunch of coins in there. And we take the money from this jar and do fun family activities with it. So, donuts, we took the kids out for donuts one day. I'm really not sure what this guy is for.
Oh, that's so cute.
But we glued it on, and we do things like maybe the kids will take $5 and go grab a Starbucks slushie, or a 7-Eleven slushie. We take the money out of it and go spend the weekend in a hotel. So this money in this jar is just for fun family activities.
I love that.
Yeah, I encourage everybody, create a family jar. And
I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Oh, thank you. So everybody who's watching we thank you for joining us in the Mamaverse. I encourage everybody to go and follow Holly. She is just like a finance expert, and just can give like really good tips on how you can weave the finance into your family, and it is self-care. Hit her up, send her DMs, ask her questions.
Yes.
Connect with her. I know she would love that. Holly, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this IG Live. Would love to continue finding ways to collaborate with you, because I know that this topic is so huge and important, especially in families, and how it can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be stressful.
That's right. It doesn't.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to connect. All right. Thank you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.